and that the response would be so mild that we would just hurt the cause by being further marginalized.
If this were a dictatorship, it'd be a heck of a lot easier. Just so long as I'm the dictator.
So I will introduce Ron Paul by saying you have not heard the last of this man. He has been running. He will continue to run now, hopefully, a movement, and we're anxious to see where we're going in that movement. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the American Conservative Defense Alliance for the invitation. It's delightful to be here. I really appreciate this opportunity. I want to introduce Jesse Benton, who's sitting over here. He's the media director for the campaign and has worked with me in the last year. But it is a very distinct honor to be able to come here and talk about something I talk about all the time. Not just my book, but what led up to the book. And, of course, what is in the book is what I have been talking about for many, many years. But it was put down, put together. Many people ask about, why don't you just put this all together and try to summarize the various positions? Because we did get a fair amount of attention here in the past year. And quite frankly, a lot more attention than I ever dreamed. I had to be sort of persuaded to get involved in the presidential race. I was pessimistic in thinking that maybe those of us who were considered conservatives and understood a non-interventionist foreign policy and understood civil liberties, our numbers were too small, and that the response would be so mild that we would just hurt the cause by being further marginalized, figuring that the educational activity would have to continue for another generation, maybe to get enough interest. And the other thing that actually got me to make the decision was the fact of the perpetual war that was going on and on foreign policy. And I didn't know, of course nobody knows, how many people are left in what we so often refer to as a remnant in society. When society is cascading into oblivion, there's always somebody somewhere who know exactly what we should be doing and know what's right and believe in the traditions of a country, and in our case believe in our traditions and the greatness of America and why we were a special country and why we had a special document. And the campaign actually helped me realize that there were a lot of people out there, and the response was just much greater than I ever thought. And although the campaign continues at a different level right now, we just came back from Indiana. We were in Fort Wayne at the university there, and we had, I think it was over 1,500 people come. So there's still a lot of enthusiasm. So those of you who may be cheering us on, if you look at the precise percentage of vote that actually vote in the Republican primary, the numbers are much greater. The numbers are much greater than you might get in these primary votes, and the enthusiasm is great. A lot of people ask, well, why is it that you have more signs and more energy and more volunteers and everybody else put together, but you still, on average, get about 8 or 10% of the vote? It seems that what happens is, if somebody hears this message, which has been described in the book, and they become enthusiastic about it, not only are they a voter, they're a worker. In many other campaigns, there's a lot of people who vote, but it's very, very superficial. Probably 80% or 90% of the people who vote have not thought the issues through. It's done on name recognition and who looks like going to be the winner, who's most likely to beat the other person, and all kinds of very superficial reasons. But they're not dedicated people. They're not dedicated to an idea. They're not dedicated to any set of principles, yet they will cast that vote. And I don't think we ever broke through there, but nevertheless, I finished that year realizing that it's a much bigger event than I ever dreamed. It's a much bigger event than I even totally understand. but I do know that the momentum is far beyond me as an individual, and I tried hard to capsulize what the campaign message was all about, and hopefully this will continue. And we use the word revolution somewhat cautiously, but the term revolution associated with the campaign came up not by the campaign. It came up by some supporters in Arizona who started calling it a Ron Paul revolution, and they took the 4 letters and had the word love spelled backwards in the word revolution, and it caught on and spread around, and I was sort of leaning in. Thought maybe we should use that on the book as well, but the publisher thought it would be too much softening the message. But the message is that yes, revolutions can be all kinds of things. They can be philosophic revolutions, and they can be nonviolent revolution. That's the kind I endorse. And the saddest part about this whole thing about the revolution is that it's sad that that just obeying the Constitution is a revolutionary idea. That's really the sad part, and yet it is. On the House floor, I look at every vote carefully. The only thing I dread is that I don't interpret the bill correctly. But if I read it and interpret it and know it and understand it, no matter what the politics of it's all about, I know exactly what my vote has to be. Because not only am I voting for the issue, I'm also voting to endorse the principle of law, which means that if we don't strictly adhere to the Constitution, there is nothing left. And I certainly talk a lot about that in the book, a whole chapter on the Constitution, why that's important. But that's probably the biggest issue, political issue of the day, is the fact that the Congress, the executive branch, and the judicial branch totally ignore the Constitution. And if they